There's a thing you did. Maybe you know exactly what it is. Maybe it arrived in your mind before I even finished that sentence. The word you can't unsay. The person you hurt. The chance you let die. The version of you that you would give anything, to go back and stop. You apologized. Or maybe you never got the chance. Time moved on. The world forgave you, or forgot. And everyone says the same 3 words. Just let it go. But you can't. It finds you at 3 a.m., and a small voice, cold and patient, says the same thing it's said for years. You should have known better. It was your fault. You don't get to be happy after what you did. Here's what nobody has ever told you about that voice. It is not telling you the truth. Because somewhere inside you, there is a courtroom. And in that courtroom, one case was opened long ago, and it has never, ever been closed. You were the defendant. You confessed. You were found guilty. And then something went wrong. The sentence never ended. Every night since, the same robed figure leans down from that bench and reads the verdict to you again. Guilty. We're going to call him the judge. Listen for him, because he is going to speak to you all the way through this. Tonight, I'm going to walk you into that courtroom, show you who is really sitting behind the bench, and by the end, you are going to hear the words that voice has kept from you your whole life. Case closed. You can go. But I'm not going to just tell you it's possible. I'm going to prove it to you, with the true story of a man who did something far worse than anything you have ever done. Remember his name, Oshea. Winter, February 1993. A house party, loud music, warm rooms, a cold street, teenagers laughing. Outside, in the dark, 2 young men are arguing, the way young men do, over something that will mean nothing tomorrow. One of them is 20. His name is Lariman Bird. The other is 16, and he is holding a gun. 1 second. One flash that can never be pulled back. And Lariman drops to the ground and does not get up. In that instant, a boy named Oshea Israel has taken a life. And across the city, he has just turned a woman named Mary Johnson into the mother of a murdered child. Her only child. Hold on to Mary. We're coming back to her. Because what she does, years after this night, is almost impossible to believe. Oshea is 16. A court sentences him to 25 years for second-degree murder. He will spend more than 15 of them behind bars. But here's the thing about Oshea that matters for you. His trial in the eyes of the law will eventually end. His trial in the eyes of himself will not. He walks into a prison built of concrete, and, at the same time, into a second prison you already know the name of, the courtroom that never closes. So keep him in the back of your mind, because if there is a door out of that courtroom for a boy who took a mother's only son, then I promise you, there is a door out for whatever you did. We'll open his cell at the end. First, we have to understand the machine that's keeping you locked in. Because this trial is not free. You pay for it every single day, with the only currency you have, your life. Guilt that never ends doesn't make you good. It makes you small. It's the judge, leaning down to whisper every time you reach for something good. Not you. You don't deserve it. It's why you flinch when something good comes toward you. You push away the relationship, the opportunity, the joy, because deep down, the judge has ruled that people like you don't get those things. And here is the cruelest twist. The person you hurt is not helped by a single second of your suffering. Not one. Your pain never reaches them. It never did. So you are serving a life sentence to pay a debt your suffering was never able to touch. To walk out of that courtroom, you first have to understand something almost no one does. There are two different prisoners locked inside you, and you've been confusing them your entire life. In the 1990s, a psychologist named June Tangney set out to map the difference between two feelings we treat as the same, and found they are almost opposites. The first prisoner says, "I did something bad." The second prisoner says, "I am bad." They look identical. They are worlds apart. The first is guilt. The second is shame. And the gap between them decides whether you heal or rot. Guilt, "I did something bad," points at the action. And an action can be faced, repaired, apologized for, learned from. Guilt, believe it or not, is on your side. The people who feel healthy guilt are more empathetic. They mend their relationships. They grow. But shame, "I am bad," points at your whole self. And a self can't be repaired because there's nothing specific to fix. There's just you, declared rotten. So shame doesn't make you say sorry. Shame makes you hide. It makes you defensive. It makes you lie. And this is the part that should stop you cold. It makes people behave worse, not better. Because a person who believes they are bad has no reason left to try to be good. Do you see the trap now? You did something wrong. That was guilt, the healthy alarm. But somewhere along the way, it curdled into shame. I did a bad thing, rotted into, I am a bad person. And that is the sentence the judge reads back to you at 3 a.m. Not the truth of what you did, a lie about who you are. So here's your first victory tonight, and I want you to feel this one. Whatever you did, that was an action. It is not the whole of you. You are not the worst thing you have ever done. You are the person still awake years later, wishing you hadn't. And a truly bad person does not lie awake, grieving the harm they caused. The very guilt you are drowning in is the proof you were never the monster the judge says you are. But if guilt is on our side, why does it hurt this much? To answer that, we have to go all the way back to why human beings evolved the ability to feel it at all. For almost all of human history, you could not survive alone. One human against the wilderness was a dead human. Your whole life depended on one thing, the bond between you and your small band of people. If they cast you out, you died. So evolution built an alarm that would scream the instant you damaged one of those bonds, something sharp enough that you'd drop everything to repair the connection before it broke for good. That alarm is guilt. Look at what guilt actually does. It makes you feel terrible, specifically after you've hurt someone you care about. It nags you toward them. It won't let you rest until you make it right. Guilt was never built to torture you. It's a messenger, pounding on your door, carrying a single message. Go repair the bond. That is its entire job. And here's the beautiful part researchers found. The people most prone to guilt aren't the worst among us. They're often the best, the most empathetic, the most trusted, the ones with the strongest relationships. Your capacity for guilt is tied to your capacity to love. It's the tax the heart pays for caring about other people. So now you can see what's gone wrong inside you. The messenger arrived. It delivered its message. Go make it right. But the door was never opened. The message was never received and released. So the messenger is still out there, years later, pounding and pounding on a door that never opens. The alarm was supposed to switch off the moment you moved toward repair. Yours got stuck on. And a stuck alarm doesn't keep you safe. It just deafens you. Which raises the real question. If guilt's only job is to send us toward repair, why do we so often do the opposite and turn the pain inward to punish ourselves? The answer was uncovered in a psychology lab, and it is genuinely disturbing. Imagine this: a silent laboratory, white walls, the flat hum of fluorescent lights. On a table, two objects, a bucket filled with ice water and a single red button. The researchers here don't ask their subjects to solve a puzzle or answer a quiz. They ask something much stranger, much darker. They want to know one thing: how much pain will a guilty person choose to inflict on themselves? So first, they make ordinary people feel guilt. They have them recall a time they wronged someone and let the shame fill the room. And then they offer the choice: the red button, one press, one electric shock to you. Or the ice water, hold a bare hand in it as long as you can stand it. What happened next shocked even the researchers. The guilty people shocked themselves harder. They held their hands in the freezing water longer. And afterward, researchers found something haunting. The physical pain had made the guilt feel lighter. Hurting their own body had, for a moment, quieted the voice. They call it the Dobby effect, after the character who punishes himself every time he thinks he's done wrong. And it isn't a glitch in a few strange people. It's what nearly all of us do, in 1,000 invisible ways. You deny yourself the good thing. You replay the memory on purpose to make it hurt again. You hold happiness at arm's length. Because some quiet part of you believes that if you just suffer, the debt will finally be paid. Pay, the judge says, and brings the gavel down. Keep paying. Now remember Oshea in that cell, more than 15 years, and not 1 hour of his suffering gave Laramian Bird back a single breath. That's the truth the judge has spent years hiding from you. Stop and let this land all the way. Your suffering pays no one back. The person you hurt does not feel 1 gram lighter because you are still crushed years later. The past does not heal because you bleed for it in the present. Every night you spend punishing yourself is a payment mailed to an address where no one lives. You have poured your one and only life into a debt your pain was never, not once, able to settle. Because pain was never the right currency. So if suffering can't pay the debt, what can? There are only 2 doors out of that courtroom, and millions of people have already walked through them. The first door is repair. There's a program you've heard of that has pulled millions out of the leap's guilt a person can carry, and at its center sit 2 simple steps. First, make a list of everyone you have harmed. Second, go to them, wherever possible, and make it right. Directly, out loud. It works when nothing else does, and here's why. Repair is the message the messenger was carrying the whole time. When you actually make amends, you finally open the door, receive the message, and let the alarm switch off. Not because you erase the past, you can't, but because you have done the one thing guilt was asking of you all along. So the first question is simple, even when it isn't easy. Is there anything you can still make right? A call you could make, words you could finally say, a different way you could act, starting today. If there is, that is not a burden. That is the exit. Walk through it. But what about the debts you cannot repair? The person who is gone, the moment that has passed, the harm that can never be undone. For that, there is a second door, and it's the one almost no one believes they're allowed to open. It's called self-forgiveness, and part of you is already flinching from those words because it sounds like letting yourself off the hook. So let me tell you when it actually is, because it is the opposite of an excuse. Letting yourself off the hook says, "It wasn't my fault. It didn't matter." Self-forgiveness says the hardest thing a human can say. "It was my fault. It did matter. And I am still allowed to carry it forward without being destroyed by it." It's not forgetting. It's not pretending. It's looking straight at what you did, keeping the lesson forever, and setting down the punishment that was never helping anyone. You keep the wisdom. You put down the whip. And to show you that this second door is real, even for the most unforgivable thing a person can do, it's time to go back to a prison in Minnesota. It's time to open Oshea's cell. For 12 years, Mary Johnson was eaten alive by a hatred she could taste. The boy who murdered her only son was in a cell, and she wanted him to stay there, to suffer, forever. Anyone would. But that hatred was destroying her, and one day, driven by a faith she couldn't fully explain, Mary did the most incomprehensible thing a human being can do. She wrote to the prison, and she asked to meet the man who murdered her son. They put them in a room together, and for 2 hours, Oshea, now a grown man, finally faced her and told her the truth of what he had done. And Mary forgave him to his face. The one person on earth with the most right to hate him reached across that table and let him go. When Oshea was released, Mary helped him find a home, next door to her own. She founded an organization to walk other broken families through the same fire. And years later, the two of them sat down together and recorded their voices. And the world heard the mother of a murdered son say to the boy who killed him, "I love you, lady. I love you too, son." Sit in that, because it should give you chills. It should also make you angry or confused or hopeful all at once. Good. That's the sound of something breaking open. But here is the part of Oshea's story almost everyone misses, and it is the part that is actually about you. Being forgiven by Mary was not the end of Oshea's sentence, because Oshea still had to do the hardest thing of all. He had to forgive himself. He has said it out loud, that accepting her forgiveness was its own kind of weight, that learning to receive a life, a future, a mother's love he was certain he did not deserve, was harder than any prison wall. Do you understand what that means? Mary could open the cell door, but only Oshea could walk out of it. Mary could hand him the pardon, but the gavel was always in his hand. And that, right there, is the secret the judge has hidden from you this entire time. But he isn't finished. He has one final argument, the one he has saved for all these years, the one he plays whenever you drift too close to freedom. He leans down from the bench, and quietly he says, "You don't deserve to walk out. Not after what you did." It's the strongest case he has, and it is about to collapse, because you are finally going to see who has been speaking. So walk into your courtroom one last time. The defendant in the chair, that's you. The prisoner dragging the stone, that's you too. But now, finally, look up. Look at the bench. Look at the judge who has read you the same sentence night after night for years. It's you. It was always you. There is no one else in that room. There never was. You are the one holding the gavel. You are the only person alive with the authority to say the words, and the only one who's been refusing to say them. That cold, patient voice that has whispered guilty over you every night for years was always your own. And here is the last thing the judge kept hidden. The person who committed that act, the one you've been sentencing over and over, doesn't even exist anymore. Almost everything about you has changed since then. Your beliefs, your habits, the way you see the world, even much of your body. You are no longer the person who made that choice. You have spent years quietly becoming someone who would never do it again. You have been punishing a stranger for a crime they can no longer commit and calling it justice. Now, your guilt almost certainly doesn't look like O'Shea's, thank God. Yours is quieter. It lives closer to home. But the weight, the 3 a.m. weight, is exactly the same. Maybe you cheated and watched the trust go out of the eyes of someone who loved you, and it never came back. Maybe you let the love of your life walk out the door, and you have replayed that moment 1,000 nights since. Maybe you broke the promise, broke the marriage, broke the family that trusted you to hold it together. Maybe you lost a best friend over words you would give anything to unsay. Or maybe your guilt has a grave, a mother, a father, someone you never made it right with before the call came that ended the chance forever. Whatever it is, hear me now. Guilt does not care how big the world thinks your crime was. It sits on the chest of the murderer and on the chest of the person who simply wasn't there when it mattered, with exactly the same crushing weight. And if Oshea Israel, a boy who took a mother's only son, was allowed to set his weight down and build a life worth living, then whatever you are carrying tonight, you are allowed to set down yours. The trial was never keeping you good. Your guilt already proved you were good. The trial was just a habit, a sentence read so many times you forgot you were the one reading it. So end it. You have that power. You always did. So before you close this, I'm going to ask you to actually do something. Not tomorrow, now. Because a trial doesn't end inside your head. It ends when it's spoken out loud. If there's a door of repair still open to you, one person you could still make it right with, take out your phone right now and write their name down. Just the name. That's the first step through that door, and you know it. And if your door is the second one, if there is no one left to apologize to, then do the thing that will feel strange and might be the most important thing you do all year. Put your hand on your own chest, right where the stone has been sitting all this time, and say it out loud to the person who has been on trial the longest. I forgive you. It was real. It mattered. And you are allowed to put it down now. Say it, even if you don't believe it yet. The believing comes after. Say it anyway. Now let me leave you with this. Somewhere in Minneapolis, a man who once took a life lived next door to the mother of the boy he killed, and she called him son. If that door could open, no door stays shut, not even yours. For years, you have carried a stone you believed was your punishment. Tonight, you learned it was never a punishment. It was a message. Go make it right, that you simply never let yourself receive. So receive it now. Make right what you can. And for everything you can't, understand at last that no one, anywhere, was ever standing there collecting. The suffering was never reaching them. It was only ever burying you. You did something once that you wish you hadn't. That will always be true. But so is this. You are still here, still awake, still caring all these years later about a wound you once gave the world. That is not the mark of a monster. That is the mark of a good person who made a mistake, which is the only kind of person there has ever been. The heaviest thing you will ever set down is not the thing you did. It's the version of yourself you never forgave. So set it down, not because it didn't matter, but because you have carried it long enough. And the sentence is finally, mercifully, over.